So in this video, I'm thinking about what we've been told about the Bible, that we have, that is spiritual, it's theological, some say allegorical. Is it actually historical? Have we got a bit confused and now we're too deeply entrenched in certain systems, including atheism within that, because actually we've been misled or mistaught or we misunderstood, and we all have to rely on those above us to feed us down the information, because we can't all be studying ancient Hebrew and translating Sumerian and all the rest of it. But where does that leave us now in terms of sacred and, yeah, who we are, where we've come from? Hi, Reverend Grace here. I just got back from a funeral, usual last minute thing. I've been away being crew, helping my friend at her women's gathering. It was really good. I massively injured my foot though, so yeah, this is not the video I was going to do. And the whole of the last 2 weeks has just been a battle to just be out in reality. Actually, when you spent a week in a field on the most amazing land, and I'll be telling you about that another day, there's something magical about it. But yeah, just come back, and you've been cooked for morning, noon, and night for the best part of the week. And yeah, I had to, there was jobs I had to do and things I had to do, but just checked out of life. And now I have to be back in the working world. But thankfully I've had 2 funerals this week, and the next one I've got booked isn't until September, so woohoo. So anyway, on the way to the crematorium today, I put on a video that I downloaded to listen to on the way, and it was Paul, one of the great Paul Wallace and Mauro Baglino videos, and he was talking about, well, they're always talking about, because they can both translate from Hebrew. In particular, Mauro can. He's super expert. He was working for an interlinear San Paulo something. It was a licensed or given the thumbs up by the Vatican, and it was an interlinear, so a Bible across the languages, and translations. Oh, I've got one here, but God knows where it is. I won't bother looking for it now. But basically, you could have the Greek lined up with the English lined up with the Hebrew, or Hebrew English, or yeah. So he's a translator that's really precise at everything he does. So this was really great for them because he's really good at it. But then he started finding things and questioning things that is actually what the text says, but it doesn't actually go along with what the Roman Catholic Church would have us as knowing. So yeah, it caused problems. He's now off on his own doing work. So as someone to pay attention to and to trust in their ability and their knowledge and their experience, yeah, he's definitely one that I wouldn't even question whether it's kosher or not. So anyway, they were just talking about some of the words. They're questioning and answering each other about things, kind of interviewing each other. And Paul's talking about kavod. Now, kavod is, it's taken as being the glory of God. And there's interesting, don't get too hung up when I say God there, think more of the glory. So there's some bits in Andrew Collins's book, and I'm going to have to look it up because I can't remember if it's Ashes to Angels or Angels from Ashes. From the Ashes of Angels, the Forbidden Legacy of the Fallen Race. I would go upstairs and go and get you and show you the book. In fact, I'll just put a photo in here. But I'm not hobbling up there. Just it's been... Well, it'll be 2 weeks this Sunday, I think, and it was that deep. I've just really hacked it, and it's taking quite a long time to heal. So anyway, in those books, in that book, Andrew Collins talks about the shining ones. He's basically trying to get to the root of who the Watchers were, who that is with Anunnaki. And Anunnaki, board. Let's get the board. So as with a lot of these things, we know that I know, look, sluts, I haven't even cleaned this off. Oh my word, I'm gonna have to get the spray on that. So we know as these ETs that have come down, anyone that's watched any amount of Gaia TV or Greg Braden or Paul Wallace or, there's all sorts of people talk about the Anunnaki, Gordon Maxwell, Zachariah Sitchin. I'm just going to give up on that. So we are very used to Anunnaki with the K. But in the Angels from Ashes or whatever I just said that book was called, Fishbowl Memory, that's the heat. He's Anunnaki. I'm pretty sure he spells it G-U-E because it's certainly not I. So this is obviously come from texts that, you know, I guess now for some reason we call them not Anunnaki, but it was the Anunnakis. There's definitely the same people. He's talking about the same beings. So it's interesting, isn't it? Because this is one of these examples where I've heard of this a lot, never heard this. Don't think so, not in my own memory. I do remember some stuff. So yeah, that's just an example of how we can get so used to a term and we hold on to that term, and that's our bit of knowledge and we know that. You know, it's a bit like sort of the shame you can feel when they used to get you to try and spell out words. It probably comes from our schooling, doesn't it? Why we have shame about these sorts of things, that the teacher asks you to get up and spell something in front of everybody and then you get it wrong, and it's a bit, anyway, it's a bit like that when you think you know something, you can really hold on to that thing and you've got that knowledge. I think that's maybe, thinking about it now, that's one of the things that's maybe closing us down a little bit and being like that. You know, I keep talking about compartmentalizing, putting people in boxes, putting information in boxes, putting data in boxes, and just fixing that's the only way. So anyway, he's talking about kavod, so the glory of God. And actually, fact, when you really say go by Marrow's translations or what Paul has learned through his translation work, kavod is actually it seems like it's more like, I want to say spacecraft, but basically yes, something that is a craft. It's quite dangerous to be around. It can burn you when it's taking off. It does seem to be able to take off. You can see why. Then you've got, and this is in Ezekiel, the book of Ezekiel. And you can see why there's Terry von Daniken. Is it Terry? Oh my God, he's not called Eric von Daniken. He wrote in the 60s, Chariots of God. Again, I've got the book somewhere. I'll find it and take a picture if I remember. So there's also the word ruach. And this is said by some to be, the breath of God. It's, it's like a breath. It's the wind. It's part of creation, and that is a crossover. That is true. It's like there is these winds, but it can be more translated actually as being a wind maker. So again, some kind of, I want to say, technology, which of course we don't think of those people back then where everything was stone and dust, that we don't think they had technology, and yet, wow. They could do things with rock that, we can't even do now. We don't have the tools to do now. So there was this wind maker, and this is in stories around the world, that there are the four winds. And now we think north, south, east, west wind, and maybe it is that. But there is something to do with the winds, and they were terraforming the earth. That is not really how it's taught to us in the Bible. And it was when Paul Wallace said, we are mistaking things in the Bible, that we're mistaking them for spiritual and theological, when in actual fact it's more historical. So things like that there were actually, this divine council, the Elohim, it's plural, and it can be as a singular, one Elohim, and anything El is God, basically. And then there's Elyon, El Elyon, the Most High. And of course, this has come from the rise of the church. Now, there's a plus side to that, because actually, it was thanks to the rise of the church, Roman Catholic, and then on into all the 40,000 other denominations that it's spread into, between your Orthodox and your Methodist and your Mormon and your Protestant and all the rest of it. So thanks to them, actually, would the story of Jesus be as far known? So this is part of this whole thing of the plan. You know, we can kick against stuff and think that things are abhorrent, but actually sometimes I am wondering, just seems to be how it almost needs to play out. And the Vedic cycles will tell you that. Well, those people, those Vedas, bloody hell, they were on it. They knew a lot of stuff, and way back. Yeah. So, of course, the Bible has been peddled by the church, and that's an institution, and that's a system, and so that has been the guidelines, that has been the teaching, that has been the path that everyone en masse has followed. In one way, again, that's brilliant, because people have been really, they might not even be listening to the person at the front, but one thing obvious is happening. They're all in community, they're being brought together in church regular. Outside of that, they are having opportunity for prayer and connection with the something other in whatever they think that is, and whatever they're listening to the vicar telling them or not telling them. They're still sitting in a sacred, holy place that has been made holy by hundreds of years, usually, and hundreds of people praying. And yeah. And often, don't forget, those churches are actually sited on blind springs and energy points, and because they've come, quite often they were plonked on top of sacred sites for the Druids and the Celts way back. So these things like the kavod in Ezekiel, people absolutely ridiculed Eric von Daniken, and they were just like, oh, this is just fairy story. Of course, this is the other thing, you see. So you've got the church, and that's one institution. You've got academia, and that's the other institution. And neither of them, it's very hard for them to do a 180-degree turn on their academic position that they've held for years, and their whole life study has been about that, and they don't want to look an idiot. It's a bit like back to your spelling in the class thing and being ridiculed or shamed if you get it wrong or look like you're an idiot. And then in the church as well, it would be really hard to do a 180-degree turn on what they've taught over hundreds of years, because you're either going to have to go, do you know what, lads, we got it wrong, and we're just going to have to measure up now to just coming out with that and turning it round the other way, and really looking at what Jesus was trying to teach us, and who or what God really is. What do we mean by that? Or we've been bullshitting you for the last few hundred years. You're not going to get them standing up and saying it. I very much doubt. And the whole thing that, it's coming in, or it's becoming that Yahweh is God. And Yahweh is just not God. A vicar stood up in a sermon I heard the other day, and that was one of the first things he said. And I just felt sick and wanted to leave the church. And I wasn't able to because of the situation at the time. But that doesn't mean that I don't have an absolute faith in Jesus, and I just tosh off the Bible. It's like, that's all a load of rubbish. No, it makes it more interesting, and it makes me dig deeper, and makes me try and understand more. And I think there's still going to be a slight difference for us because of each of us, because of our own perceptions and what we imagine and how we operate. But I see more people coming around to the light of Christ, but in a very different and far more personal and beautifully connected way. So, but we've been led along this thing, that Yahweh is God, and the church has had all the power, and then we've had the whole science thing come in for the last 200 years. Those initial scientists, they were actually exploring and experimenting and testing to see where was God behind this? How did this all come about? Whereas that has ended up with actually, no, it's all just mechanical material stuff. And look how clever we are as scientists. We're all incredibly clever. And actually, there is no God, and it's all just, material world stuff. There's no soul. And yet they know full well there's things that they really can't explain. And There was somebody, a lady, I can't remember her name. She was on Buddha at the gas pump. It's one of those interviews, a lady with long hair. Now, is it Cynthia Larson? Anyway, she, I think she's the Mandela effect lady. But anyway, she said that it's interesting that the physics guys, let's call them that, the more they try and dig into who and what is God, the deeper the hole, the dark hole broadens, because I don't really think they're fully meant to find out. So where does this leave us with God? And when I say God, I just think, actually, let's stop using the word God, because that is, it is such a loaded word because of church. It is such a loaded word because that's that God thing, that God man, that one in the Bible that those cretinous, awful people teach us in church, you know, all the sort of atheist attitudes. You can pin a lot on God. So you can pin death, suffering, killing, which obviously includes murdering, war, disease, and horrible things like the bugs going in kids' eyes, and, loss, just in general, things going wrong, calamities and dramas in our life, our own illness, mental and otherwise. We can throw a lot at this God, and that's quite handy, really, isn't it? Because you can just offload it onto to that and blame that. Like, oh, why is this happening to me? In actual fact, like, quite often those things are your absolute blessings and learning curves. And the thing that Jesus is trying to put out to us is it's about coming back to self, going inward, taking responsibility for your actions, because you are a powerful creator being. So another thing that I was listening to is, all right, so I'll have to put his name here, and you can't even read all of that. Oh, classic. Get used to that. I'm too hot to bother today to read you that bit. You heard the words. I'm going to have to put the name in. He's a Japanese guy. He was a professor at some university in America, and I don't know if he still is, but he had the FBI after him in the end because his lectures started getting really interesting, and he started teaching people about basically methods, breathing techniques and meditation techniques where you could actually realise that you can totally create the reality around you. And of course, that's a bit too powerful, and they don't really want people being able to do that. But Caroline Miss as well, she's a very forthright lady, and she'll tell you in no uncertain terms, you know, open your eyes up, because you are creating your own world, and if it's doom and miserable, it's reflecting something back to you. I think it's either reflecting something you need to know, or it's reflecting something back about yourself, your thinking or your demeanour or your how you are in life. And yeah, believe you me, from past experience, when things are going really craply, is that a word? And you're just lowest of the low in every way, then that's really hard to pick yourself up out of that thing. But post that, because I have been in that position myself for many years, actually, yeah, now I look back on it and I learn the lessons now and I carry that forward. So that's always that's a great thing. So he seems to be back, like, well, he's not in a form. This is the thing. He came as a man, and I suppose we can all have our visual image of what Jesus looks like. And certainly if you've watched The Chosen, I mean, that'd be pretty hot Jesus, wouldn't it? I'm sure he was pretty hot. He had amazing piercing blue eyes, apparently. So that's really off the point. I bet he was good looking. I bet he was a good laugh. But anyway, you can have your visualization of him, but it's almost like he's coming. Well, I was going to say he's coming back in another form. He's not coming back in another form. When I say coming back, I mean, yeah, maybe he is going to reappear. Maybe he's on the planet Nibiru, the 12th planet, and he's going to pop here. But what I mean by coming back at the minute is it's like, without physically seeing the light, it's like his light is filling the world up again. And that can be hard to believe, me saying that, when you see so much crap and war and arguing and tossers and the rest of it. I think we're in a stage, like if we look at the Vedas again, if we're in a stage where, number one, we're in the Vedic stage, we're coming through, it's the stage where it's got to get worse to get better. In the transformational stage as well, like if you imagine what a caterpillar, little caterpillar's got to go through, what, to first form and trap himself in the chrysalis and then squish and go into mush and then form back into it. But I mean, I don't know if that's painful for them, but it's certainly a smushy process, a bit messy, a lot of effort and energy, and then pops out as the butterfly again. Well, we're moving from the age of Pisces into the age of Aquarius. So in astronomical terms and cosmic terms, and I don't mean cosmic as in, what's he called?
Cosmic.
No, I mean cosmic as in, you know, whether you want to believe in astrology or not, there's a lot going on with the planets and the stars and the things out in the cosmos that certainly have an effect on us, cosmological. So yeah, we've got the New Ages. They're close to the mark. They're getting back to connection with nature and spirit and land, Mother Earth, the cosmos, energies, subtle bodies, all that kind of thing. A lot of them are ridiculed and written off, but in actual fact, it's a rather beautiful thing, whether you're a Wiccan. And again, people go, oh, witches, witchcraft. It depends your intention. You have to remember that within any, I mean, I still can't believe that there were even Buddhists that have gone out and, you know, killed people and all the rest of it. You're just like, really? Are you sure they could be Buddhist? Are they just Buddhists because they're in a place where it's all Buddhists? But actually they're just, you know, got some arsehole sort of ego attitude with them. I don't know. It's a bit like people say, oh, you know, you go to church on Sunday and then you see them in the week and they're not being particularly Christian. I know what they mean by that. I know exactly what they mean by that. But again, this is all of us falling all of the time, isn't it? The fall, as in what happened when Eve ate the apple, I'm not sure that there's a confusion of what the fall is with that, whether it's actually the fall of the watchers, the angels, the shining ones falling, or whether it's the story's now put onto us being the fallen ones. Anyway, that's a whole other video in itself. But there just has been this constant confusion, and now it feels like we're coming out of this other confusion. And yeah, so you've got your New Agers. Some of them are really coming into the Christ-like thing. They're not just all, you know, goddess worshippers or whatever. Some people, I wouldn't even say it's goddess worship. It's just an appreciation and a connection with. There's a lot of women connecting more with the divine feminine in all different forms, and that's nothing to do with worship or power. That's to do with trying to live as the best version of yourself, which, you know, broadens out into loving Earth and everybody on it, or trying to. You know, we're living with a lot of bloody shit going on, aren't we? It's really tough. But you can still live with that intention. And there are lots of beautiful people out there trying to do that. And yeah, just really that connection with nature. Then you've got your atheists. Now, with the way science has risen up and the way that the church has actually been teaching about God, and there's this Yahweh character and all the shit that they see happening on the world, and they just think, God, you can't even sign up for that. Totally get it. Totally get it. And the whole thing of the way science, and also being caught up in the whole material world thing, possessions and doing things and hedonistic stuff. And yeah, really severance has been made with what is really sacred there, sadly. But again, things are coming to light. It's like this Christ light is bringing more to light. So then you've got your churchgoers, and that's a right old mix. That is a right old mix. There are some, like me, I know there are others among me that we might go to a church, we might take communion even, but we are exploring outside of that. For me, my exploration there goes to Yeshua and Joseph Arimathea and the Bethany family coming here to where I live, Devon, Cornwall, Somerset, and my Celtic roots, and that includes the Bretons and the Galicians in the story down through Gaul, and yeah, it's that's kind of taken me along that route. Then there are others that are really staunch, like scripture readers, and they think almost that it's almost become Bible worship. I know in America there's a lot of that. They think that absolutely God, personally penned that Bible. They will not have it that it's very much man-made. However much everything is influenced by God, and again that depends what you're thinking God is and what we're assigning God to be. And you've got your academics and all the rest of it, and they've been really set in their ways. And you've got the likes of Graham Hancock coming in and doing that big series on, what's that thing called? It's not YouTube, it's the other one, Netflix. And he's got people really up his chuffer now. He always has had, him and Andrew Collins, people like that. They're sticking their necks out on the line. But actually, I'm so glad, and thank you to both of them. Thank you to all those people that are doing that. Oh, yeah. I'm trying to think what he calls in front, and Matthias de Stefano, and what is he called? Anton Parks, people like that. They're doing amazing stuff. And they'll face ridicule by the academics and the archaeologists who think they're the experts, and yet, because again, it's hard for them to swing back around 180 degrees. Very difficult, especially when you've written books and maybe you've got your PhD on a certain thing. I think it's a case of, it comes back again to good old what Bill Donahue used to say, we all need to grow up a bit. And we do. Because when you know that science even itself has progressed, and so you know more, how can you not then think, oh, right, well, this is the new information that's come, and you're just pushing it. That kind of takes the mick out of what you're trying to prove and claim to be true, because you've said that that's the new information anyway. You see, it's like a tricky loop with that. So we're all in these lumps, aren't we? We're all in these containers, be you atheists or whatever one of the faith paths, or and it is a case of actually, God to me is more, it comes back to, you have to go back for my other videos if you haven't watched them in the last couple, 2-3 months. But basically, I think it's got to be source. There is like a creative source, be it consciousness splitting itself. Now, was it Plato? It was somebody, and they went back to what was before, and the thing that was before, they got back to consciousness, and that is exactly what Matthias de Stefano. Consciousness started splitting itself to experience itself. That's creation. That's the Big Bang. That's the first spark, and it's all just rolled out ever since. So, yeah, that's where does that leave? Where does that leave me, and where does that leave us with sacred? If you haven't watched the 2 previous videos to this, then what I'm about to say might make more sense, but what I saw that day, there is just something really other, and there is definitely something sacred. And hanging on that one, it can be no more than an hour that I saw it, and that 1 hour in my whole life, I don't know how many hours I'm going to live. It's loads, isn't it? That 1 hour, mate, has made an entire difference to my life. I've had other things happen since, but that hour only needed that, because I have such a knowing. Like I can't pass that knowing on to you other than just to say, I know things look like they're going to hell in a handcart. But 2 things. Let's write it down so we really compound it in our minds. You wait, I'll start writing and I've forgotten the two things. Number one, number two. Do you know I have forgotten two things? Number one, there is definitely something greater, and that is light. And light wins out. Good always wins out. And whilst I do see some things with the whole Mani view of the world and the whole Gnostics thing, I do not believe that creation in itself is corrupt or wrong or malice. Now, whether Mani and that are right, and actually we are living on this world that was created by somebody out of malice and malintention, and or it was created as you know, a beautiful, amazing, loving, love-filled place, and it has been corrupted. But ultimately, because ultimately, if you're going back to consciousness, basically, that's your at the bottom, most easily understood level. That's the space that you go into in meditation. That's the connection with something really beautiful and greater than ourselves. That's those people that have the near-death experiences and they find themselves in a realm where there's just like it's bliss, like bliss beyond bliss, and beautiful light beyond beautiful light, and angelic song beyond, you know, just like unbelievable as what some of them are describing. They just knew they were so loved. They knew they were with people that they loved. This is source. This is consciousness. So I just think ultimately that is, you know, that's why light wins out, because that was the original. It's original. Source was not corrupt. Corruption has happened out of creation, expanding and you know, going off into every possibility of consciousness experiencing, witnessing itself. Number two, to remember that in this consciousness, we are creators. So even if you have to fake it to make it, like, really, just try, just forgive yourself and go really gently with yourself, like, because you do fall, because you do forget, because you do moan, because you do call someone a bitch, because you do have road rage because someone's driving like a dick because apparently they just think that they got to get there before everybody else, sort of an attitude. All those things. Oh yeah, I'm totally doing it. I haven't read the Highway Code in years, but I behave like I know every single page of it. But we are creators, and I think ultimately, if we can just really live with an awareness of that, and like in meditation where you keep returning to your breath, to slow the monkey mind down, to get into that really high, cycles of your what's it in your brain. I can't remember, is it gamma? Is it delta that we want, the top one? Anyway, where the Buddhist monks get to when they're meditating, they're like on another world, basically, I think. But yeah, to keep returning to as a practice in your day-to-day life, this is a way to live prayerfully. You think that praying is like, another way to live prayerfully is to live with intention, that an awareness that you keep bringing yourself back to, trying to just give out something good, trying to keep your resonance, keep your energy, keep your frequency higher, spinning at a higher, greater rate. And I know that people push your buttons and situations. Stop watching the news, for starters. You're not going to miss anything. That's what I found. I don't watch the news, and I seem to just get through the world perfectly well without it. In fact, better, because I am not pushing myself into places of fear. There are also videos on here, there's all little shorts where you can learn a thing, like a mantra to say, to cut cords and put your psyche and your spirit and your soul in control of, like, if you've watched something on YouTube, it's like putting yourself like in a protection mode or cutting cords with the thing that you just watched. because it's upsetting your emotions or your nervous system in some way. There's all this sort of thing you can do. So yeah, they said that 2026 would be really hairy. And it kind of is, isn't it? I think you could probably think back, the last few years have been hairy. Has this got any worse? Well, some levels, I guess. So maybe, again, that's creating your reality. Oh, yeah, it's really doom and gloom out there. Or it's really... No. I live with like a longer term focus on just that intention that actually it's just going to be all right. And it'd be interesting, wouldn't it? Wouldn't it be interesting if like we all, like a really mass, and that's what they call by tipping the critical balance, that there are more people in the world that are just awakened and, you know, doing what I'm talking about, like just being really positive all the time and just giving out love. And yeah, because there's been research done, mass research done on the effects of mass meditation and how it has stopped riots potentially happening in a place where there was riots and civil unrest, in war situations, different things. And it seems to really have tipped the balance. I can't remember what the measure they put on it, but it seems to be pretty, stalwart, good work. So, solid. So, yeah, if I can spread anything into the world, it's to really trust that there is actually something bigger than us. But it is about us engaging with that, and it's about us realising our position in that, our potential and our power. And that's what Jesus was talking about when he's talking about go within, let your eye be single. He's talking about getting up into your right side of your brain and putting source consciousness, putting the ground of all being in the driving seat. That's why they talk about being in the flow. Because if you're pushing something, I have to do this, I should do this, or I must do this, you're pushing something, you're pushing an outcome, you're pushing a thing that you want. That's not in the flow of just letting source roll out through your life. And I know that works as well, because when I've been on pilgrimage, and you know kind of where you're going to go to at the end of each day, but you don't really know like where you're going to end up, where you're going to get your water and your food and your this and that on the way. And so you just they say, oh, you know, the way provides for you, and it does. So, and it takes you about a week or two to get into your 4 or 5 week walk to really drop into that fully. So, but yeah, I am proof of it, because I have experienced it. So there is something, and I like to think of it as magical, and I don't want to make it like it's just a fairy story or whatever, but those myths and those fairy stories, just as a little side note to end on. So those myths and those fairy stories, I've been thinking recently, it's always amazed me, like they've lasted so long. And like old wives' sayings and superstitions, they've lasted so long. Now, they're all things that were passed on with oral tradition. And I think also there is truth in them, or there is really deep learning, or it has come from the root. Like with myth, we write them off as myths and legends, but in actual fact, they have sustained because there is truth in it, but also because it's been passed from people to people, down generation to generation. Now, in business, one thing I really learned, you can do all the advertising, you can do all the SEO, you can do all the this, that, and the other, but your best thing is word of mouth, because I'm a person, I'm creating a thing, I'm trying to get it out to another person, and the people that, they're going to be people that are going to be buying or interacting or visiting or watching or paying for your thing, and or buying your thing from your shop, or whatever going to your theatre production, whatever the thing is, everything's transactional between people, and word of mouth is just the best thing for that. So it's the same thing. It has the power. It's so strong. So my friend who runs the women's gathering that I've just been to, and she encouraged us, one of the meetups that we had, one of the ceremonies at one of the points in the weekend, and she said, how about we all go back to being the village gossips? Because when they were the village gossips, when they were the women that used to meet in the street and they used to sit out on the doorsteps and all the rest of it, then news spread and everyone was aware of everybody and everyone looked after everybody. You had far more of a sense of community and you didn't have to do big advertising because the word would just spread. You could put something out and the word would spread. And then people would come to the party or the wedding or the ceremony, or they'd buy the thing or they'd go to the thing or they'd be able to cure the thing or help the thing because there was this network of women being gossips. Gossip has become a really bad word. I should look into the root of it, but anyway, we'll end on that. And again, managed to keep it a bit shorter today, which is fantastic. Thank you for watching, and do check out my other videos if you haven't already. Thumbs up for you, Deborah De Pepe and Reverend Rachel. Lots of love. Oh. Do subscribe and like and all the blah, blah, blah things down there. It helps the God of YouTube to show me to other people. Otherwise, it's just us guys, which is nice. Peace be with you.